Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps: Bob the Dragon, Crab Lobster, Datamagnet, DuckMachine, Mezec, Try Again 95, Feudic Jarl, Astraya the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Buxbaum. Thank you very much. Story number 1. Their arms many, their reach far. Written by LordsOfJoop. This is an informative video to let you know, hey, it's not that bad, friends. You've borrowed more money than you reasonably can afford to pay back within the original guidelines and made a choice outside the original agreement. This, well, it's been known to happen a time or two in the past. In those unfortunate instances, payments are still due and corrections to be made. Except now, there is a few cautionary tales to be added to your list of concerns. Let's start with this. This is not necessarily what is going to happen to you. We'll be repeating this line a few times, so brace yourselves for it. Now, Quebec tribal cluster in the Eastern Spiral Arm can tell you war is expensive. We can affirm this to be true. We financed the first 5 significant wars of expansion and defense. They borrowed a sum of money which required repayments being made at regular intervals. Then they chose to default on a schedule and sent an instructive, if frequently vulgar, snap video of them insulting us and our generosity. Whilst yes, we do have a somewhat sinister reputation, and the Quebec incident may sound familiar. What does not sound familiar is the deal we made after that unfortunate choice to turn away from the righteous path of repayment. The deal summarized in a single phrase would be, pay us what you owed or we finance a 6th war. The Quebec again chose finance, and in reply we financed the coalition of the Glorious, who then spent a small sum of money and a lot of time repaying the honor debts accrued when the Quebec attacked their respective homeworlds. The 6th war was substantial in its depth, cruelty, and degree of recovery inflicted on the Quebec homeworld. It is said that as the war drew close, most of the General Staff's firstborn was shot into the upper troposphere with railguns financed by our funding. That, however, is total fabrication. Those were mash drivers, completely different physics involved. And it wasn't their firstborn. Secondborns were also included, mostly in the form of rounding errors. Now, this is not necessarily what is going to happen to you. Our next chapter is the fate of the Reslin mercenaries. They requested a consul to speak on their behalf at the Urk at their homeworld and provided a summary of their needs, a list of their minimum expectations, and the financing for the first 2/3 of the negotiations. At the conclusion of the negotiations, the other party involved, the Urk, were no longer a spacefaring culture and would choose a simple agrarian lifestyle for the foreseeable future, and that seemed to be that. Until, of course, the betrayal of the Reslin mercenaries, who chose to withhold payment on the debt and cited that their contract was the utter extermination of the Urk. Now, again, we have a reputation to uphold and live down, as the case has shown, and we did not lie about that feature. What we did not do is complete eradication. We're selective, careful, and in some ways family-based. So, we did not ask the Reslin mercenaries to approach this issue with some circumspect awareness of the tenuous condition, and instead, we seized their financial capital and began to sell it to various debtors in the market for a slightly used habitat cluster with a standing population of 28,500 occupants. In some cases, visitation with the Reslin mercenaries can be arranged for further clarity. Contacting the nearest cultural zoo or sex trade emporium may be a solid lead. Now, this is not necessarily what is going to happen to you. You, the Deny, requested a full-on embargo, contraband influx cessation, and orbital occupation for 6 of the 9 Ortaran homeworlds, and we have obliged. However, the repayment schedule has not been maintained, and our resource partners have explored the idea that you, the Deny, are reaching out to military-grade assets for sale by what you believe to be our rivals in an attempt to avoid repayment, and perhaps even to venture into seizing property not due to you. We could threaten you, and we can do that easily enough. we could provide you with more examples of our responses. We've barely scratched the surface thus far. We could even hurt you directly. Again, that capability was in our reach. Instead, we're going to let you handle this all on your own. Frankly, we're intrigued as to how well you'll do. Your debt to us is now forgiven in full, which, by the way, we cannot claim as a tax write-off, despite what you may have heard in the various media representations of us. However, as a bit of insight, since we're in such a forgiving mood, we also are forgiving all of the debts to anyone who successfully occupies, destroys, steals, or permanently disrupts any and all of your spacefaring, land-based, and aquatic assets. In short, you are a walking, talking collection of cash, and everyone can smell you. Perhaps you should have begged for our cruelty. With sincere appreciation for the business that we've engaged thus far, the Mafia Collective, Western Spiral Arm, Sol 3, Italy. It's not just business, it's family business. End of story. Story number 2. Of supreme importance, written by QrangeJuice. My what? Zombie survival plan. Everybody has one. I won't laugh if it's done, I promise. Explain, zombies. Oh jeez, the tier Quixit don't have the concept. No, it doesn't translate. Not even approximation. Okay, so there are these, the kind of monsters from our mythology. There are at least 20 variations, but let's go with the actually dangerous kind. The monster is created when any creature is infected with a retrovirus. The effects of this virus are as follows. The victim first goes unconscious, and then they reawaken. Perhaps seconds later, they go into a murderous frenzy. All uninfected around them are targets, and contact and any body fluid causes infection on any time scale from weeks to within seconds. They also bleed constantly from their eyes, mouth, and nose. They have full range of physical capabilities and survive months without food or water. It's effectively a hyper-rabies. How do you survive? Oh, come on. It's theoretical, don't hyperventilate. No, I will hyperventilate because your culture has a reference point to extrapolate such a disease. It's entirely fabrication. You know how we humans are, all a story. Okay. Well, first, I'd like to try and isolate myself from the creatures. They aren't intelligent. As smart as a psychotic dog. They'll go around obstacles and communicate within the swarm. Well, then a suitably tough bunker would work. Do I have prep time? No. Imagine the outbreak happened, let's say today. It doesn't matter all that much. Then, I'll try use the company harbor to get to the MPSB bunker. They'll have set up a refugee center, and we'll be getting people off-world. All right, that's a good one if the government survives. Now assume that the government breaks down, and space travel is impossible. That's not likely, is it? Absolutely hypothetical. But can you imagine Congress allowing the outbreak to go unquarantined? No. So, the government falls and we can't get off-world. No prep time. I'd get somewhere remote with a low population. The Himalayas, perhaps. Or the Antarctic colony. But then we'd run into the problem of food production. Yes, that does make sense. Wales, perhaps? No. Hawaii! They can they cross water? Let's say no. Then Hawaii. Perhaps Cuba, Guam, a remote island with reasonable infrastructure. But military forces remain can clear the area. And further infection is prevented by the low indigenous population and the surrounding ocean. We can farm from the island and wait out the plague. Good point. I like it. Comprehensive and quite likely to convince people to join us. You! All right, glad that, whatever that was, it's settled. Where did that come from? Never mind, I don't want to know. Now, will you tell me why you're holding the door shut? And what is that noise on the other side? The scenario wasn't hypothetical, was it? There was an accident in Lab 28 today. I didn't notice that Dr. Marrero was infected until we had all unsuited. I knew I should have stayed on Tier Quixia. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.